What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM. Here today, episode 505 for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far ahead of SummerSlam on Saturday. Speaking of which, heading out tomorrow for Detroit for SummerSlam weekend. Not going to be around from Thursday to Sunday. We'll be in the area for all the activities, so looking forward to that. Before then, though, we're answering your questions from Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not in the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get right into it here. Central Man Network from YouTube, their first question was, who is your Mount Rushmore of AEW so far? It's a good question. I just saw on a related note that the Elite re-signed officially with AEW, it didn't re-sign today, I don't imagine, but they announced it today through Sports Illustrated, which is pretty cool. So they're sticking around in AEW. If I had to come up with a Mount Rushmore for AEW so far, the four men that come to mind are Omega. I wouldn't put the entire Elite on there, and I almost put Adam Page on there. If you put Adam Page on your Mount Rushmore, I wouldn't, debate that. I wouldn't argue with that. But I left Page off. Omega's kind of like the sole representative of the Elite in this Mount Rushmore. So I put Omega on there. Moxley, who's been involved with the company since their first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, 4 years ago. A constant workhorse for them, face, heel, multiple world championship reigns, carried the company through COVID in 2020. I got to go Moxley on there as well. Jericho, like him or not, again, has been involved with AEW since the beginning. First pay-per-view main event, one of the first major names to sign, even before Omega, actually, in early 2009. Not always doing the greatest work, but Jericho has been constantly involved and really helped put AEW on the map early on. You can't debate his, importance to the company in those first formative years, I would say. And, has that great world championship reign that he had in 2019, 2020. So, Jericho's another one. And then MJF. I would probably say you can switch out MJF for Page if you wanted to. Punk I wouldn't put on there quite yet. He's had a great run overall, but he was there for less than a year. He got hurt, came back, got hurt again, suspended, only back now. I would put MJF on there. I probably actually none of the, other than MJF being like the only pillar on this thing. I would not put Guevara on there. I would not put Darby Allin on there or fucking Jungle Boy. The Mount Rushmore for me would be Omega, Moxley, Jericho, and MJF. MJF just not recently won the World Championship, but he won it only in November. Prior to that point, had not been a world champion or any champion of any kind in the company. But he was consistently one of the best parts of the product as, stuff that he was doing with Cody Rhodes and then Jericho at times, CM Punk, among others in the last 4 years. Always doing great work in non-championship storylines. He was one of those guys that was always one to watch on the program for a long time, and even now, even still as world champion, doing great stuff alongside Adam Cole. So, again, MJF, Jericho, Omega, and Moxley would be on my Mount Rushmore for AEW so far. Their second question, speaking of AEW, what are your fantasy WWE versus AEW matches? Now, these first two aren't, actually, most of these matches have happened before in different circumstances, but I just feel like they would make sense. One being Roman Reigns and Jon Moxley, the most dominant heel in all of wrestling right now, 3-year-long title reign. Him and Dean Ambrose, him and Moxley never really had a formal feud in WWE. They only had one televised match, actually, that being at the Survivor Series show in 2015, and it was not good. The build-up sucked for whatever reason that night. They just lacked chemistry. Maybe they would have always had subpar chemistry in the ring. But that one night, it was not a good match. I always hoped for a rematch and a formal feud between the two. We never got it because Moxley didn't go heel until after Roman got sick. And then when Roman got better and he came back, Moxley was back to being a babyface by that point. And obviously, Roman never turned until Moxley left the company. So Moxley left in 2018. Roman turned heel in 2020. But anyway, I feel like that matchup would make the most sense. That, Cody Rhodes and MJF as well. Again, we already saw this previously at, Revolution 2020, and it was not a great match. Same thing with Roman and Moxley, where they had a feud, actually. Their one and only match was not that good, and there was never a rematch for them to kind of rebound off of that. I kind of wonder if the plan at some point was to have run it back, maybe when MJF won the championship and they would have broken Cody's like, oh, you can't win the world title thing, that whole stipulation. And that's when he would have won the world championship and beaten MJF. I don't know. But I think Cody Rhodes in his current form, even more now than 3 years ago, current Cody against current MJF as a top star, I feel like would be a great program, a great match. The promos would be awesome. So Cody and MJF kind of match up to me. Seth Rollins, you could probably put against Roman or MJF or even Punk. I did not do Rollins and Punk because, again, I had a lot of matches already on this list that we've already seen before. We had seen Rollins and Punk at least once or twice already in WWE 10 years ago. Again, different story than, like with Rhodes and MJF and Reigns and Moxley. Would have been a lot better now than it would have been 10 years ago, I would think. Maybe not actually, because, I mean, Punk was more in his physical prime at that point. Rollins is more of a main eventer now than he was 10 years ago, but he was still great in the ring even then. So I won't do that one, but I would do Rollins and Kenny Omega. I don't think they've ever had a match. Maybe on the independent scene 15, 20 years ago that I'm not aware of, but I'd go Rollins, Omega. CM Punk and AJ Styles, because, again, that's another match we've seen before, I think, in Ring of Honor many, many years ago. I don't even think they like each other, but I wanted to put Punk in a fantasy warfare match with someone from WWE. That was the only one that really made sense. AJ's not a top guy right now, but I'm thinking, who do you put Punk in the ring with? And AJ was the guy that came to mind. FTR and the Usos, I feel like would be a great match. Again, they had a couple of matches in 2019, and they were all very good matches, but FTR is the best tag team in the world right now. The Usos are one of the best tag teams in the world right now, so I feel like it'd be a much better match now than it was 4 years ago when they were feuding over fucking Icy Hot and all that other dumb stuff. Uzi Hot, that dumb crap. And then finally, Finn Balor and Darby Allin. Darby's dark persona against the Judgment Day's Balor, I feel like would be a pretty good match, or a pretty good dynamic, and just a really good match in general. I didn't put any women's matches down here. I mean, you could do it like Britt Baker and Charlotte. They're kind of like the equivalents to the other's division. I don't know if that'd be a great match, but you could do that. Jade Cargill, I don't know where she is right now, but her and Bianca Belair, I think that would be, again, not a great match. That's why I didn't put this stuff down there, but I just feel like that would also match up with Jade's dominance against Bianca's dominance. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. Maybe Thunder Rosa and Rhea Ripley. There's not a lot of similarities there, but I just think it'd be a great fucking match. Or Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley, actually. Again, we've seen that's another match we've seen many times before in WWE and NXT, NXT UK. Never on the main roster. Tony left before that could happen, but Rhea taking on old familiar foe Toni Storm would be really cool with their current character, so I'll say that one as well. Micah Does It from YouTube, their first question was, what other YouTubers do you watch besides wrestling YouTubers? Not a lot. I've said that I've shouted them out before, but new rock stars. I watch a lot of like Marvel related content to kind of catch up on not stuff that I've missed, but stuff that I'm not aware of because I don't read the comics and shit. So I watch all the Marvel shows and movies and DC stuff sometimes. New rock stars kind of catches me up on what I'm missing out on and what's coming up, and kind of keeps me glued into that universe with Easter egg breakdowns and previews and analysis and stuff that I probably wouldn't be aware of as far as, the deeper meaning of certain stuff and stuff that I missed because, again, I'm not the biggest Marvel fan in the world. I love Marvel, but I didn't read any of the comics. I'm only kind of relatively new to this world, so they kind of helped me out with that. So the new Rockstars YouTube channel, there's a couple, but I mean, those are probably, as far as non-wrestling channels, that's probably the main one, I think. Ryan George, I think is his name. He's from Screen Rant, and he would do like the parodies of in the writer's room. I forgot what he calls it, but he does those for Screen Rant. I think he still does. I actually just follow his own YouTube channel, not even Screen Rant. I follow his own YouTube channel for like skits that he does. And they're not very long videos, but I find him entertaining. I've watched Long Beach Griffey before. He's on like the verge of cancellation. Complete 180 from the other channels I follow, but he's a funny guy. I mean, a lot of dumb, stupid content, a lot of offensive content, but most of the time. But he can do some funny stuff sometimes. So that's pretty much it, though. I'm not really subscribed to a lot of channels. I'm subscribed to WWE's channel, obviously. Matt Hardy's channel for his podcast excerpts, but that's that's wrestling related. So those might be the main ones that aren't wrestling related. New Rockstars being the main one because they post every day. They post a lot of content. I try to watch everything they put out. And also the deep dive, which is also kind of related to that, which is just more. It's the same guy from New Rockstars, Eric Voss, doing movie breakdowns and deep dive analysis on certain movies, and I like to watch those as well. Micah's second question: I don't think we'll be seeing War Games this year at Survivor Series. If WWE does brand supremacy with SmackDown versus Raw versus NXT, and we get Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins versus Carmelo Hayes, who should go over? I don't think we're getting that. I don't think NXT will be involved. I mean, I guess they could, because we've seen a lot of crossover lately between NXT and the main roster. I mean, that match just sounds bizarre on paper. I mean, I think Rollins and Carmelo would be awesome. But when you throw Roman in there, I mean, Roman automatically wins every fucking time. I mean, that's assuming he's still champion by then. That's assuming Rollins and Carmelo are still champions by then. You're saying if they were champions right now, like if this match was happening tomorrow and they're not on the verge of losing their championships, who would win? Probably Roman, because Roman in even multi-man situations, even in matches where his championship isn't on the line, tag team matches, aside from Money in the Bank last month, he does not lose for the most part. He may not get pinned, but he does not lose. So I would assume Roman Reigns would win. But it would be cool if Rollins won as a surprise victory and kind of get one over on Roman, and that leads to another one-on-one match between the two. The problem there, though, is that in this scenario, Rollins would already be the World Heavyweight Champion. You're not going to do another match between the two with Rollins already the World Heavyweight Champion unless you're merging those two titles, which you're not going to do because we already had a unification match, and the whole reason of bringing back the World Heavyweight Championship and installing that was so we can have another World Championship while Roman holds that one over on SmackDown. So that's probably not going to happen, but I would say Rollins winning. I mean, Carmelo's not winning. We know that. I love Carmelo, but he's not winning. Rollins winning as a surprise win by pinning Carmelo would be cool, but I feel like it would be, if that match were to happen, which I'm not expecting it to. I don't think War Games is happening either, which is fine. Keep it special. Bring it in whenever it actually is necessary. I would assume Roman would be winning that, would be my guess. Who should induct Chris Jericho into the WWE Hall of Fame? That's a good question. There's so many potential people it could be. I would think Lance Storm, just given how close they were, and the fact that Storm was there at the beginning of Jericho's career. I think had his first match, or one of his first matches. They trained together, obviously. So I'm going to go Lance Storm. You could make a case for a few different people, like if this is the WWE Hall of Fame, Kevin Owens. I mean, they had Owens was an integral part of that Jericho renaissance in 2016, 2017 as part of Jericho and the Festival of Friendship shit. So you could say Kevin Owens. I could see that. I'm not sure how many other close friends. I mean, Jericho has a lot of acquaintances and friends in wrestling, but the people that he came up with are all dead. I mean, Eddie, Benoit. I don't think it's going to be Perry Saturn. Probably Lance Storm, I would have to imagine. Probably Lance Storm. I'm trying to think of other people from throughout Jericho's career that he was close with, in WWE specifically, that would make sense. I mean, I know he's close with Don Callis. I don't think fucking Don Callis would induct Jericho into the WWE Hall of Fame. I'll go Lance Storm. I feel like that history is recognized by WWE. They even had a match at that ECW One Night Stand show, I think in 06 or 05 or whatever. So I would think that match would make the most sense, or that pairing would make the most sense. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the YouTube Machine. Check him out on YouTube at from the Twitter Machine, also on YouTube. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his content, his great work. His first question was, so SummerSlam is nearly upon us. Are there any chances WWE has some surprise returns or one-off appearances? If so, who? I'm doing a whole article about this for Bleacher Report, I think on Friday, talking about potential returns, who could we see come back, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the top two people that are out, that we don't know when they'll be back, are probably not coming back anytime soon, per recent reports. Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Now, those would be the two best people to come back on that show, being, SummerSlam and whatnot. Orton, though, I think Fightful Select had a report out on him yesterday or the day before, saying that he is not due back anytime soon. Either he's still hurt, or he's not close to coming back, or whatever the case might be. He will not be back, I would assume, this weekend. He might be in town, I think, or that maybe I was thinking of The Undertaker. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of WrestleMania when he was in town, apparently. Randy Orton was. I don't know. Orton would have been my top pick before 48 hours ago. But, Orton maybe. Bray Wyatt, again, I had read, I think, from Fightful as well, and they're a pretty reliable source, that Bray was still sick and dealing with whatever illness took him out of the game a couple of months ago, earlier this year. So I don't think he's ready to come back either. Bray or Orton would be great, but I'm not expecting it. The red herring would be The Rock. I know the Grayson Waller thing with Waller calling him out and wanting him on his talk show, doing the people's elbow last week on SmackDown against Jey Uso. I just feel like we've seen this time and time again, and you might think, why would they be mentioning The Rock so much if he's not coming back? I mean, look no further than fucking Survivor Series 2021. They mentioned The Rock a million trillion times. Heading into that pay-per-view, the 25-year anniversary of The Rock, they did a fucking battle royal in his honor, and he never showed up once. Not even a video. Not even a video. Like we were thinking, oh, he's not going to do a video because he's going to show up at the end of the night. No, that didn't happen either. So I wouldn't, to promote his own fucking movie, by the way, I wouldn't bank on Rock being there just because they teased him. I mean, we've seen this before with The Rock where they tease him and he just doesn't show up. I don't think that's happening. It would be cool, though, if Waller did. He's probably in the Battle Royal, but if he did a talk show segment or he just showed up interrupting, whatever, and then The Rock comes out, lays him out, they go back and forth a little bit, that'd be cool. If only because, listen, I'll be there. I've never seen The Rock in person. So he's like the last one. I've said this before. He's like the last one on my, like, bucket list of people to see live, and I've never seen him live because he hasn't really been active in the last 10 years for the most part. So that would have been cool. Or that would be cool if Rock showed up on Saturday. That's about it. We just saw John Cena last month at Money in the Bank. I don't think that's happening. Could the New Day come back? Maybe. That's possible. Carlito. The United States Championship match isn't happening on SummerSlam now. It's happening on SmackDown. We heard Carlito was like good to come back pretty much any day now, I think. I don't think he'll be back in the fold in time for the pay-per-view. If Rey Mysterio and Santos and those guys, because he's seemingly, I would assume, doing something with the LWO, I would have to imagine. So he probably will not be at SummerSlam. I don't know if anyone else would come back. Those would be my top picks, but none of them look really all that likely. So I'll break it down in the article for Bleacher Report on Saturday. I would even say Lita at SummerSlam, because for her to come out to thwart Zoe Stark and help Becky Lynch beat Trish Stratus. The problem there, though, is that they're not doing Becky and Trish on the pay-per-view. They're doing it on Raw in a couple of weeks in Canada. So that's not happening either. So I don't think we're getting any returns or any appearances on Saturday. Anything that we end up getting, as long as it's someone good, would be a cherry on top, because I'm not really expecting anyone at this current point in time. His second question, even though it's only in its infancy, so to speak, is there an argument to be made that Collision has already surpassed Dynamite as far as feeling like a proper wrestling formatted show? I agree. I love the formatting of Collision. It might be inevitable before someone comes along, like a Jericho or something, to kind of mess up the flow of things and to get a shitty storyline on the show. Like, listen, I fucking hate QTV and the fact that they're on the show every single week. But, that being said, they've had a lot of great things going on the show. Tag team wrestling has gotten more time. Whatever Punk is doing has always got my attention. Ricky Starks has gotten more time. Miro's on the show. They got Andrade back. A lot of good things to like about Collision so far. The pacing is great. Watching it on TV, being there in person last week at the show, it really does feel like they have something special in Collision, and I really hope they don't fuck it up anytime soon. And it wasn't just a couple of week thing like, oh, it's the first 2 or 3 shows. No, we've gotten like 6 or 7 shows so far, and they've all been good to great. Some weaker than others, but I really love last week's show. The week before that was good. The week before that was amazing. So, Collision is a really great formatted show, but I think the biggest positive there is that they already have Rampage. They already have Dynamite. If you didn't have Dynamite or Rampage, Collision would be as much of a fucking mess as Dynamite is. Collision is just extra 2 hours for people that were not really on Dynamite. For people that weren't on Dynamite a couple of months ago. Ricky was barely on Dynamite. Andrade, Miro, Punk were never on Dynamite. So it's their kind of show. It's really just, it feels like an extension of Dynamite, but not in a bad way, in that all the people that were on Dynamite are continuing to appear on Wednesdays. I mean, MJF and Cole have made a couple of appearances on the Saturday show, and that's fine. I mean, that main event on Saturday last week was great with FTR. I mean, FTR were already on Dynamite as well, but not all that much. They've gotten a lot more time and focus and storyline support, it seems like, on Collision compared to Dynamite. But anyway, I'm a Collision guy, to take Punk's catchphrase from the back of his shirt. I'm a Collision guy, and I hope to see the show continue to thrive, because it's been a lot of fun to follow so far, and it really does feel like a great alternative. Not to say, oh, Collision's so much better than Dynamite, which it is, but fuck Dynamite, go Collision. Like, I don't want to be that guy, but I do very much enjoy what Collision's got going on right now, and it feels like the alternative that it should be to Dynamite. It's not the same show. You got a different commentary team, and it's got a different vibe to it. More time for matches, less stuff being shoved in, less frantic pacing and stuff being advertised at the last minute. Just a lot of organic stuff, and I enjoy it. And as I've said before, currently it's my favorite wrestling show of the week, more so than Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, Impact, MLW, NXT, whatever. Of all the shows that I watch, Collision so far currently is my favorite wrestling show to tune into weekly. His third question, non-wrestling related, but any chance you'll be seeing the new Ninja Turtles movie or the Meg sequel that are out this week? The Ninja Turtles movie, probably not. I've mentioned this before on the show. I think on the 100th or the 500th episode a couple of weeks ago, someone asked about it. I mean, I've seen some of those movies. I've seen the live-action ones. I've seen the 2007 TMNT movie. I had the video game on GameCube back in the day. I didn't see the two recent ones they did in the last 10 years, in 2014 and 2016. I didn't see those. I know Sheamus was in the second one. I didn't see it just because of Sheamus. I don't have that much of a connection to the Ninja Turtles to go out of my way to watch every one of their movies. This one being no different. I mean, if it's amazing, then maybe, but I mean, it'll probably end up being enjoyable. But I will go see the Meg, though. I did see the first one 5 years ago and enjoyed it. This one also looks enjoyable. It's going to be, maybe it's one of those movies that it's so bad that it's good, or it's just stupid. We need one of those dumb shark-esque movies at least once a summer. This kind of fulfills that quota for the summer of 2023. But, I won't see it this weekend, obviously. I'll be away as of tomorrow, but probably either at some point next week or next week, and I will go see the Meg sequel. I know you said the Haunted Mansion was fucking awful. I had seen your thoughts on it. I'm not expecting anything great, but I'll probably just go see it to see it because I love the ride. I will waste my time and money on to go see Haunted Mansion. I'll probably see it for $5 and not waste more money than that. But that being said, I will probably see that over TMNT or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or whatever, and I will definitely go see the Meg sequel at some point in the near future. At noob_n_co TV, their question was, are both Asuka and Rhea Ripley's title run so far very disappointing? Fans are already bashing Asuka's title run because she's not involved with Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair. As for Rhea, she's barely defended the women's world title since May. I think Rhea's reign has been better than Asuka's, and Rhea has been... The difference with Rhea and Asuka's had 2 title defenses since May. They've both been champions since like April or May. Rhea at least is a focal point on Raw. She doesn't defend her championship often, but she has defended it enough. She had the 2-minute squash against Natalya, Night of Champions. She had a really good match on Raw with Natalya for the championship on the Raw after Money in the Bank. She had a good match with Zelina Vega on the WrestleMania Backlash. Just Backlash at the Backlash pay-per-view a few months ago. So she hasn't had a lot of defenses, and the division is still in shambles on Raw because they just don't have a lot of direction for those women. But at least she's on the show weekly. She's dominant. Asuka is not dominant. She had 2 title defenses with Charlotte and Bianca, and I understand why they did what they did to kind of further the story, but both ended in DQ, and she didn't win, I don't think. Maybe she did win by DQ, it doesn't even matter. They both ended in DQ, and the focus right now is on Charlotte and on Bianca. It's not on Asuka. Asuka has been an afterthought really since this whole 3-way feud started a few months ago. Since Charlotte came back and got injected into the title picture, Asuka has been the total third wheel, which is probably why I think she'll win on Saturday to kind of show, hey, I could still be champion, and then maybe Io cashes in, who knows. I'm going to think that she is, but regardless, Asuka's an afterthought right now. Rhea's run has not been amazing, because again, the focus really isn't on the championship right now, it's on everything else going on in Judgment Day, not really her title, but at least she's been dominant, she's gotten exposure, she's on the show constantly, and she's had a couple of good defenses so far. I cannot say the same for Asuka. Noob's next question. There's been a lot of drama in the AEW women's division. How will AEW make their women's division even better? Have multiple segments, multiple matches, write strong storylines with better storytelling, have the women cut promos, etc. I agree with all of that. I really feel like that's the answer, and I hate to sound like a broken record because I know we've talked about this time and time again, and my answers are always the same, but that really is the key. The key is consistency. They have the talent, and that might have been, and that was my answer a few years ago, that they didn't really have a lot of depth or... Not that they didn't have talent in the division. They've always had talent in the women's division in AEW. Just not a lot of it. They have a lot of talent currently in that division between AEW and now what they've got going on with Ring of Honor as well. And there's a lot of overlap there, but like, you got Chris Statlander back, Willow Nightingale's around killing it. The Outcast group itself, I'm not really a big fan of, but all three women are very talented. Saraya, Toni Storm, and Ruby Soho are all great. Britt Baker is Britt Baker. She's good, and you know she's been around. She's established. She's over. Jamie Hayter is awesome, and she's out injured currently, and Rose is out injured. Jade's gone for right now, so those are three notable names out of the mix. Having them come back is not the automatic answer. I mean, Statlander was out for almost a year, came back, won the championship, and she's barely on Dynamite. She'll have random title defenses on fucking Rampage. Like, who gives a shit? You know, I don't care to see her with Nyla Rose or Marina Shafir. I don't give a shit about that. I want to see her have an actual storyline. She did with Taya Valkyrie for like a month, but then AEW didn't really know what to do with her after that, and she's been kind of just there. So, same thing with the women's division in AEW, not just the TBS title, but the AEW Women's World Championship. Toni Storm has been champion now for a few months. She's had some good matches, but there's no real direction there. There's no feud. Like, Britt Baker's not really feuding with them. Willow and Sky Blue have gotten title shots, but they're not really feuds. They're just kind of quick, one-and-done type matches. And now Toni doesn't really have an obvious opponent for All In. I'm sure they'll start building something hopefully tonight. One can only hope, and they're not going to wait till the last fucking second to kind of build a match for that show for the women. But, I mean, they might have two women's matches on that show, one like a TBS title match and a women's world title match. Beyond that, I'm not really sure what else they do unless it's a fucking battle royal or something dumb like that. They have no direction. And that sign was right. They need to be booked better. Now, some of the matches aren't great, like Taya and Britt Baker last week was not a good match. And that got some time. It was an 8-minute match, like, great, but we need that more consistently. And more storylines, really, as well. I mean, again, the talent is there. They're getting some time on these shows. It's not like they're always having 2-minute matches, but the storylines are nearly non-existent. There's just really nothing to get excited about, nothing to really sink your teeth into with that division. The matches and whatnot are just there. So really, more than anything, you mentioned all the reasons right there, and I agree with all of them. Cutting more promos, I agree with that as well. In front of a live crowd, that's key. Not just vignettes, which also help too. They need better storylines and better storytelling. That's really, to me, what's lacking right now with the women's division. That hasn't always been lacking. At times, they've had like 4 fucking 5 feuds going on at a time with the women in AEW. But for the last couple of months, it's really been the Outcast, and then everything else has been just there. Even when Jade was around, I mean, she wasn't really doing a lot. She was defending against Taya, and that feud was kind of like, eh. So, I mean, they've had feuds that also aren't very good. So they need feuds that are good and worth getting invested in with the women that they have. There's a lot of women that are just there right now and aren't really doing anything consistently that gives them any sense of direction or really gives us any reason to care. At Iwagu91, his first question was, do you think Chad Gable will be Gunther's next challenger after SummerSlam? No, I don't. I would love for him to be. I think that'd be great. I don't think he will be, though. I know he teased it on Raw Talk. Gable being the one, I mentioned it before, like, I think you even asked, like, oh, will Drew McIntyre be the one to take the title from Gunther? I don't want him to be. I think he probably will be. I mean, Drew could very well, he's my pick to win on Saturday. I don't want him to win, but I think he not probably, but I do think there's a good chance he will. Unless it ends in a DQ. I don't know if Gunther wins by, like, fucking, like, clean. I'd be surprised if he did, to be honest. I really do think it should be Gunther breaking the record in a month from now and not losing it before then. We've come so close, just have him break the record. But anyway, with Gable being the one to beat Gunther would be great. The key there then would be the follow-up. Would they continue to make the championship a priority with Gable? Would they actually focus on him? Or would it just be a moment and then he loses it like a month or two later after not really being on Raw and he loses it to someone in like the fucking Judgment Day or something? I mean, I would hate for that to happen, you know? I would hate for it to be for them to waste Gunther's first one-on-one pinfall loss in WWE, on the main roster anyway, to waste that moment by giving it to Gable and then it goes nowhere. I would hate for that to happen. It's got to mean something and the follow-up has to be strong. Again, I would love for Gable to be the next challenger. They had a great match on Monday's Raw, but I'm not expecting it. I felt like that was more of a one-off because McIntyre wasn't on the show, and they had to kill time somehow. His next question, do you think that Adam Cole will be the one to turn on MJF, or will it be predictably the devil himself doing so? I do think it'll be MJF. There is a chance it could be Cole. There's a lot of different ways they can go with the Cole-MJF partnership, friendship, whatever. That's why I'm enjoying the storyline so much, not only because they work so well together and they're so over and they've had great matches, but because it's not really obvious where this is going. They lost their World Tag Team title opportunity. There was a chance they could have won the tag titles, which I'm not upset that they didn't, but it also would have been cool if they did. But anyway, when it was over, MJF did not turn on Cole or vice versa. And MJF already told Cole that he can contend for the championship before they even went for the World Tag Team titles. He already told him, hey, I'll give you a shot at my World Championship. So maybe he turns heel on him during that match, after that match, I don't know. Maybe Cole goes heel instead. This is like the most interesting Cole has been so far in AEW. I'm not really sure, and as over as he's been as well, I'm not sure if I would throw that away for him going back to being a heel already, is my point. But MJF's also really over as a babyface. I'm not sure if he's ready for a full-on babyface run quite yet. The whole thing with MJF being world champion is that he's going to take it out of the company with him, like CM Punk in 2011. I'm not really sure you could tell that same story if he's a babyface. So, I would have MJF be the one to turn heel. I think he will be the one to turn heel, but maybe they throw us a curveball and go in a completely different direction in the coming weeks by having Cole go heel instead. Maybe Roddy factors into that somehow. I guess we'll find out in due time. His other question, Michelle McCool admitted in interviews that one of the reasons she retired was due to repeated accusations that she only got pushed to success as the top female star of SmackDown due to her relationship and marriage to The Undertaker. Your thoughts? Yeah, I never bought into that idea that McCool was only pushed because she was married to Taker or was in a relationship with Taker. I don't know how long they had been dating, if it was, I think it was 09. I don't know if they were dating all the way back in 08. They obviously knew each other working on the same brand for so many years, but I don't know if they started dating until like 09, and that was around the time she started getting pushed. I don't really think it had anything to do with that. I mean, Michelle McCool was very good. I mean, she retired very abruptly in 2011. I was never among that mindset. I never had that mindset, oh, she's only in the title picture because she's with Taker. No, I thought was she the best women's wrestler ever? No. And she was an obnoxious heel at times, but the late cool stuff got a lot of heat. Wasn't always great, but, they were pushed well, and she held up her own in matches, and she had some good matches during her time in WWE. She was very successful. I feel like that was due to her own merit and not because of Undertaker. I mean, if it was frickin' Rosa Mendez or something, maybe, because she was terrible. There were a lot of women that were worse than McCool holding gold or even going for championships at that point in time. McCool was not one of those women that were pushed, I think, unjustifiably. She did well as a babyface, but then they turned her heel, and she was even better. And she got a lot of great heat, and she was like the measuring stick for success in that division from 09, I would say, through 2011 when she retired. So, yeah, she got a lot of unfair flack, I would think, from fans, and probably even other people during that point in time in WWE. At E138 from Twitter, their first question was, do you think Austin Theory will lose the United States Championship on an episode of SmackDown? Yeah, probably. I mean, he doesn't defend often on pay-per-view at this point. He did at Chamber, Mania, and Backlash, but he did not defend, I don't think, at Night of Champions or at Money in the Bank or again at SummerSlam. I mean, his reign is such a fucking afterthought that at this point, I would have loved for LA Knight to take the title from him at SummerSlam, but they're not even doing Escobar and Theory at SummerSlam anyway because the card's already full as it is. So even if LA Knight did win that Invitational, he was not taking the belt from Theory at Ford Field in front of those fans. He might still lose it tonight, maybe on the next pay-per-view. I forgot what it is, Fastlane or Payback or whatever fucking dumb name it has. Maybe on one of those shows. I'm not saying he won't, but I feel like it would probably be more fitting if he lost it on SmackDown because it's such like an afterthought. It doesn't really feel like it should be a big deal when he loses it, not because he's been such a great champion, but because the reign is finally over and he could pass it on to someone else. But if I had to take a guess, it probably will end on a SmackDown, but I could certainly see them building the night, taking the belt from Theory, maybe at the next pay-per-view or the pay-per-view after that. They might not see that as a priority, though, to do on pay-per-view as opposed to like an ordinary episode of SmackDown. His second question, you remember when you said SummerSlam this year could have multiple women's matches? How do you feel about the two matches that are happening? So yeah, Raquel and Rhea is not happening on Saturday, nor is Trish and Becky. Rhea and Raquel was furthered on Monday's Raw, but Adam Pearce told Raquel the match will happen when you're cleared. And she's not legitimately hurt either. People thought, oh, they're not doing the match because, she's hurt or what. No, she's not actually hurt. I mean, they're just keeping it off the show because they have enough matches. It is a bummer. I thought we were going to get 4 women's matches. We're not even getting 3. That's disappointing. I'm not, of the 4 matches, the 2 that we're getting on pay-per-view belong on pay-per-view. The Shayna Ronda one, they built up extraordinarily well on Monday with those video packages, and the triple threat should be great. Rhea and Raquel should be a good match. The storyline itself has not been, like overly electric or anything, but I am bummed. Rhea was not on that last show, so I am bummed she's not going to be at SummerSlam defending the championship. She will obviously be on the show as part of that Judgment Day Rollins Balor World Heavyweight Championship match. I'd be shocked if she wasn't. But not defending the title, that's a shame. Becky and Trish, listen, I think it should have culminated at SummerSlam. The only thing I would say is, I'm glad LA Knight's going to be on the show, but LA Knight could have been in the talking segment instead. You really do not need to have that Battle Royal. You could have replaced that Battle Royal with one of the other matches. I would not do all 4 women's matches. I thought we were. 9 matches seems like a lot, but if you do 9 matches, one of them probably would have been like fucking 5 minutes. And I don't think any of the women deserve that, so maybe it's for the best that those matches aren't being added. But you really could have added Rhea and Raquel or Trish and Becky to culminate at SummerSlam by taking away that Battle Royal. That's a completely fucking pointless match. Nothing on the line. I mean, but then again, it's Slim Jim sponsored, so that's why they're doing it. So the fucking sponsors are probably the reason why they're not going to be at SummerSlam. I would not put Becky and Trish at SummerSlam over Drew and Gunther, or even Logan Paul and Ricochet, to be honest. I mean, that's just a fact. I'm looking forward more to those matches than I am Becky and Trish. The storyline's just been kind of there. It hasn't been bad, but it certainly could have been better. I had higher hopes for it than what we ended up getting. But anyway, at least they're making it make sense by doing it in Canada, Trish's home country. She'll get the home field advantage. Okay, but I mean, at the same time, not having a SummerSlam without Becky seems strange. I'm not upset over it as much as other people are. It is a bummer, and having 4 women's matches that made sense at SummerSlam would have been great. But they already have a lot of matches as it is. SummerSlam, should not be 2 nights. That would be dumb. I don't know. I just feel like it's a missed opportunity to make history with 4 women's matches that aren't like, a pay-per-view that's not Evolution or whatever. To have those matches at SummerSlam. But at the same time, I don't want these matches going 5 minutes because we have 9-10 matches on the card. So, it's a bummer, but it is what it is, I guess. His next question, how do you feel about the Twitter rebrand? I mean, is anyone in favor of it aside from Elon Musk? I'm sure there are people that do like the rebrand, but the whole X thing, every time I get a notification now, I think I'm getting a notification from like fucking Uber or something. Because it's black and white, not the typical blue with the bird. It's just confusing. Like Uber X too, I mean, it's just dumb. He's, fucking ruining something that was already not great, but it was a worldwide renowned brand as Twitter. You're taking away the word tweet because you're going through a midlife crisis. I can't take credit for that. I've seen other people say that on X, on Twitter, but it's so true. Like, imagine doing that shit just because you feel like changing it for the sake of changing. And that's like fucking Vince McMahon changing or rebranding people, repackaging people because he wasn't feeling the name that day, so he gave them a new name and a new character instead. It's just dumb. Why would you take something that is world-renowned and then ruin it and give it a new name that's not nearly as known or won't be as known or isn't as catchy or unique? It's like every other platform now, so the layout isn't any different, really. It's just the colors, the logo, and the name. It's fucking stupid. At BillMeister88, we'll close out with his 3 questions here. First one being, do you think we'll get an octagon-style ring for the Ronda Rousey-Shayna Baszler fight at SummerSlam? I don't, because I feel like if we were, they would have said that. I feel like the generic MMA rules means it's going to be like a pure rules type thing where they just make up rules as far as like, oh, you can win by knockout, blah, blah, blah. If they were going to have an octagon, I mean, I don't even know if you can use an octagon. I think that's exclusively owned by the UFC. If they were going to go in a cage, they should have just called it a fight pit, but they're not. So I don't think we're getting a cage. If they do, that's awesome. But if they do, they also should have just called it a fight pit because people know what that is, and not an MMA rules match that's completely foreign to a lot of people, I would assume. I mean, again, we know what MMA is, but like, what does that mean as far as the context of a pro wrestling match? They probably don't even fucking know yet. But I'm just saying, if there was a cage there, more people, I would assume, know what a fight pit is and have more of a reason to look forward to that match knowing what that stipulation entails, as opposed to an MMA rules match where none of us really have any fucking clue what they have in store for that or what they're going for and what the rules will look like exactly. His second question, I've been binge watching Dark Side of the Ring from the beginning. Have you watched it, and which has been your favorite episode so far? Of course I've watched it. I've watched and reviewed every episode here on the channel, so check those out when you get a chance. I didn't start watching it when it premiered in 2019. I had heard people talking about it, but I didn't watch it and start like catching up myself until season 2. Right before Season 2 came out, I watched all of Season 1 with Alexis. She loved it as well. We still watch it now. And I've seen and reviewed every episode since. She also actually recently asked me what my favorite episode was. Probably, again, favorite is a weird word to use because all these episodes are depressing as fuck. The Benoit one was really well done. That's among my favorites that they've done. The Brian Pillman one, the Owen Hart one. Brawl for All, just because it was a fucking mess. There wasn't really anything dark about it, but it was entertaining for all the talking heads they had on there and the fact it was such a mess of a concept. I enjoyed that Brawl for All one. That was a guilty pleasure episode of mine. There were a lot of other ones that I didn't know a lot about certain people, and then I did, and they would inform me and enlighten me, and they were done in entertaining fashion. So those would be the main ones, though. The Benoit one, Pillman, Montreal Screwjob, if only for the back and forth between Vince Russo and Cornette. Didn't really learn anything new, but the back and forth between those two was entertaining enough to make that episode worthwhile. But those would be the main ones: Brawl for All, Pillman, and Benoit. There were also a lot of other good ones in between from Season 1, 2, 3, and now 4 as well, but those would be my top picks. Next question, or last question actually, from Bill here, last one of the episode. Do you think CM Punk will be at All In London? I'm guessing he'll have to travel separately to the Elite, to London, if the Elite go to London as well, he's asking, as there's no way he can spend 9 hours on a flight with the Elite if they have to be on different sides of the arenas currently. I don't think they would have to take the same flight. I don't think it works like with WWE. Maybe it does, I don't know, but I don't think the entire talent roster, which one, they wouldn't even fit on one fucking plane because there's so many of them. I don't think they're all flying on the same flight. I know they're taping Dynamite and Collision on the same day, on that Wednesday before All In, but I would assume they're going to go home after that, get their shit together, and then go to London together. I don't know if they would all, or not together, but like go to London separately. Like, for example, Punk would go home, fly out from Chicago, the Bucks would fly from LAX. I don't think they'll be on the same flight at any point. I don't think they've been on the same flight yet, even before their issues. I don't think they would be on the same flight now. And if they were, they would make it work. Like I said earlier, I know you mentioned rather, that they're on opposite ends of the arenas currently when it comes to like these shows and when they're being filmed. And if they're in the same building, they can't be in the same locker room. Like, I get that, but if it was a flight, they would probably just put them on opposite ends of the flight. Hopefully they can make it work. I don't think it would even come to that, though. And I do think Punk will be at All In. I don't think they're not going to have him at All In because the Elite are going to be there. That'd be fucking dumb. He's on the advertising. Punk was honestly the first person, I think. He was actually the first person to mention All In Wembley Stadium in London in a promo on AEW television last week on Collision. There's no way that he teases being at All In if he's not going to be at All In. So he will be there. He will be on the card as he should be. And I don't think he and the Elite will have to interact at all. And if they do, we'll definitely hear about it. Thank you guys for checking out the show this week, sending in your questions. It was a lot of great group of questions, great batch of questions, so thank you so much for that as always. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Find my post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section in this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have an awesome one, guys. Enjoy SummerSlam on Saturday. Like I said, I'll be headed out tomorrow, so hopefully more content will be posted while I'm away. We'll see if I have time for that. But it'll be a busy weekend in Detroit. I'm looking forward to it, though. Should be an exciting few days over SummerSlam weekend. Enjoy it, folks. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.